Hello, everyone. Good Friday afternoon. I'm so glad you're here with us to see the Ask the Expert show. And all of these experts come from the Authors and Speakers Visibility Playground. I am your host, Dr. Shirlene Reeves. And we have this robust community. It's just fabulous. They're all business owners. They all mastermind and refer each other, which is really, really wonderful. So when I have an opportunity to work with one of these phenomenal business people, it's really a pleasure. And if you haven't joined the Authors and Speakers Visibility Playground, please do. We would love to have you. And it's not only just authors and speakers, it's anybody who supports them, which gives us a vast array of information when we're trying to create programs and when we're trying to do our 5-day challenge. Everything is heart-based. And we have a whole entire heart-based community. So don't forget to join us at the Authors and Speakers Visibility Playground. Now, what about our topic today? Whoa, this is going to be fun, because if you are parents, and this is all about business, and if you are parents and you have a hard time with your children eating, oh my gosh, I've seen some unbelievable things happen just with sitting in with my grandchildren, because for years they just ran by the table and they'd shove a bite of food into their mouths, and I thought, my gosh, and they spent a lot of time at restaurants too, and it wasn't easy for their parents to deal with. And so our expert today is all about how to feed our children nutritious meals and how to actually get them to eat what you need them to eat. Now, I always say with my clients or my students that they always have a backstory that is what's make them experts. I'm sorry, I'm tripping over my own tongue. Or they have credentials. So this case, we have this fabulous backstory, and she's done a tremendous amount of education on how to take care of her own children. And she has an 11-year-old and a 15-year-old. So she's right in the middle of it. And she's a wellness coordinator who focuses on helping parents work with their kids so that they know how to eat properly. And, you got to admit that macaroni and cheese is not the best meal for kids, but sometimes that's all they'll eat. And what are we supposed to do to get them to eat nutritiously? Well, this is going to be fun, as I said today, because we have a wellness expert, and she's not just anybody. Well, she's not a wellness expert like everybody else, because she teaches you how to work with your kids. Did you get that? She teaches you how to work with your kids. So let me welcome Alexis Braunfeld to the show right now. Hi, Alexis. I'm so glad you're here with me today.
Hi, how are you? So good to be here.
Oh, I think that you have the most interesting topic, because getting our kids to eat properly, if we don't get them to eat properly, they never know how to eat properly. But then they want all this junk food and they just don't eat anything at all unless they get to have that. So what do you do? What are your thoughts on how to deal with this?
Well, I think creating habits young is super important. It is really hard because kids' palates are very picky and our lives are super busy. So most of us parents, we just want to throw what our kids will eat and make sure they've had something in their bellies and move on. But it is really, really important to make sure that we make good choices. And because what we're feeding our kids as babies and toddlers and preschoolers is setting them up to succeed in the future. And that is tough, but if we just keep offering the kids, I think that the biggest tip is just keep offering the kids those fruits and veggies over and over, even if they're not eating it. We always put a little bit on their plate, and we don't push. We just reward when they do eat it.
So how do we get them away from the macaroni and cheese? I mean, every time I go somewhere, I see kids eating macaroni and cheese. It's like in the olden days, it used to be hot dogs and beans, right? But now it seems to always be that. And they've even made it into a delicacy. So, how do we get around this? How do we, if that's all they'll eat, what do we do?
Well, I think there are some tricks like pureed butternut squash, and there's a couple other fruits, pureed cauliflower. We can mix that into the mac and cheese to make that a little bit healthier. And then I think offering something on the side with the mac and cheese. So slowly, we encourage them to try that with the mac and cheese, and hopefully their taste will open up and evolve and grow. And when I do talk to parents very young, I encourage them not to go down the mac and cheese trail.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I mean, it helps to even if kids are going to eat it once in a while, it would help not to give it to them every single time and give them a big variety of food from when they're very young.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge, is giving them variety to choose from. But also, parents don't want to waste money with giving them that variety and then they never eat it. So what do you suggest? I mean, I know you have courses for kids also, and that's for kids, and it's the course for the parents that's a really tough one. What do you suggest when you just can't get them to eat anything else, and it's a fight, and they love to do that in restaurants, I noticed.
When situations are tough, as in a restaurant, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, and you do give them something to eat, whatever they will eat. But personally, in my journey, I learned along the way, and I slowly started cutting out the junk food that I didn't want them to eat. I found substitutions that were a little bit more healthy, rather than like giving them goldfish. I found a healthier version. So at least if they were eating it, it was a more nutritious product. Sometimes you want to cook a little bit more, so you have a lot of healthy treats right at your, to grab, and they're there. So that's a really good way to try and get some more good stuff in. But there are times that you just got to make sure that they have something in. But if you have your secret bag of weapons, that's the best trick to it.
I used to have the kids help me make these little fun, some people can't have peanut butter, but there's almond butter too. And that I used to make these almond butter or peanut butter balls, and they love those, and they were filling. And so they weren't so prone to go for the carbs for dinner as they are today. And I think if they watch TV and they see all those commercials and all that stuff, that makes it hard too.
Oh, definitely. It reminds me of, because I make a similar treat. I make a couple of variations, but my favorite is a pumpkin one, and we put oats in it and pureed pumpkin and some honey, and I do put a little bit of mini chocolate chips in it and mix it all together. And that is, they're getting the sweetness of the pumpkin, the chocolate chips, and the honey, but it's all natural. It's not processed, and my kids love it.
And I think that process thing is the biggest problem, is to try and keep them away from processed foods. Yeah. And, life is a little bit different now. So more people are eating at home, not by choice, but it is happening. So at least they're not running around in restaurants right now. That's a good thing.
Definitely.
So what did you do to get your kids to just sit down and even if you had something in front of them that they didn't like, how do you handle that? What would you say to a parent?
So the rule that we had in my house was the no thank you bite. Now I have to say, there are some kids out there that I would label as extremely picky. Like, they will not eat. There's probably to the point of maybe some medical stuff going on, which for those parents, I definitely would suggest going to see a medical professional and getting them checked out and making sure there's nothing, no reason that they're not eating. But for the average picky kid, suggesting that they try, like I said, we have this no thank you bite. So even if my child was like, no, 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 I'm not eating it. I would just ask them to take the bite. And something that I found in one of my classes, I've realized that a lot of parents don't do this. I always told my kids that they can spit it out. Now, I told them they can't spit it out like impolitely. I said, you can go over to the kitchen, go to the sink and spit it out, or over the trash can and spit it out. But that way, like, at least they got it in their mouth. They chewed it, and I said 3 chews. You have to put it in your mouth and chew it 3 times at least. And I feel like that's a step, because once you take that step, even if you spit it out, you're learning that taste. And sometimes it takes like 15 to sometimes some of the picky eater experts I've talked to, sometimes 50 times for a child to
Wow.
taste something and get used to it and want to actually eat it. So it's just their level of sensitivities and learning and getting used to it, because it's not just flavor, it's texture. There's a whole bunch of different things that come into food.
So what do you do when you put something in front of them that isn't what they want, and then they start crying and screaming and bitching and moaning? How do you handle that?
I just, like I said, I'm trying to think, like, so even today, my 11-year-old will do this. She's a pretty good eater. She loves salads. She actually will probably go for a big bowl of fruit before other stuff many times. But for some reason, lately it's chicken. She says, what's for dinner? Or I say, yeah, she says, what's for dinner? And I say, it's chicken. She's like, ew, no, I hate chicken. I hate chicken. And I tell her, you have to have a couple bites, and if you decide you really don't like it, because obviously she's a little older, and I feel that at this point she's had a bunch of food, she knows what she likes and she doesn't. So I ask her to take a few bites. When she's done that, she may go into the kitchen and make herself something to eat. And we have, like, kind of like a list of 5 things that she knows she can go make. She can go make herself a turkey sandwich or a cheese quesadilla. As long as she has a side of veggies, that's my rule. And I'm not getting up to make it for her. That's another rule.
Well, I know that some parents make a different meal for every kid. Have you seen that too?
I have definitely seen that.
And it ends up with the mom in the kitchen all the time because the kids won't eat the same things. So you have to keep making different foods.
Yeah.
What do you do about that?
I really, really do not encourage that. What I do encourage is, number one, family meals. Like, any way you can, even if it has to be at lunchtime or breakfast time, like once a day, everybody should be sitting down together. It's just such a great social way to connect with your family, and it actually makes a positive experience for meals and that positive connection with food for the child. So that's the first thing. And then what I would do, I lost my train of thought for a second.
We were talking about all the different meals that moms have to make.
Oh, yeah. So I would just make it a positive experience food-wise. I would make sure there is something on the table that your child likes. So if you're trying a new meal and they like baked potato, make sure there's baked potatoes. Like, always make sure there is something that they will like actually on the table. So if they do take that no thank you bite of one thing, then they can eat as much as they want of the thing that they like.
So at least they get to taste it.
Mm-hmm.
And you think that will stop the crying?
Child
kids cry, right?
Kids cry. It doesn't hard, but like, sometimes you have to sit at, we made a rule that you have to sit at the table for a certain amount of time, and then once everyone's had a few bites, they can get down. But try and make it on your own terms. If you lay down the rules to begin with, and you have to have forethought as to knowing your child, what it's like, but just set it up to have a positive experience for them. So if you know that they're only going to be able to sit still for 5 minutes, you make the rule that they have to sit still for 5 minutes, and they've succeeded. And so it becomes a positive experience.
I wonder about using a timer, and you let them set the timer and put it on the table next to them. And then I wonder if that would work.
Yes. I mean, and that also, another thought popped into my head, like having them do the timer, but also having them more involved in the meals, in making the meals, like anything that they can do, whether setting the timer for the amount of time that they can sit still, or just helping you more in the kitchen. things like that, just when they get to do it, it's a different story.
Mm. And you were talking to me earlier about gardening and how to interact with the kids when they're gardening. Talk to us about that.
I think gardening is such a fantastic experience for kids. Just the digging in the dirt, it's just so tactile and they love that. But then really making the connection between the vegetables that you serve them on a dish at the dinner table and where they come from. I've seen kids in my classes just really, it just clicks for them. And it's so neat because it's an additional thing when they're touching it, when they see them put a seed in the ground, it sprouts up, and then they pick it and they eat it. It's like this whole connection, like they've created it, and it's not that bowl of vegetables that mom forces me to eat. It's different because they made it, and then they start to equate it with the bowl on the dining room table, and they want to eat it. So.
And that would be a really fun thing for parents to do at this point right now, is to plant some things and let the children help you, so that when they pop up and they could even go pick them and participate in cooking them into whatever it is you want to cook them into, right?
Definitely. When my daughter was probably around like 5 or 6, she hated tomatoes. That was her thing back then. I hate tomatoes. I hate tomatoes. Meanwhile, she would eat pizza like it was going out of style.
With tomatoes on it.
Right.
And
we didn't tell her there were tomatoes there. But that summer, I grew tomato plants. And she would go out there and eat the cherry tomatoes, and she would fill bowls, and she just loves cherry tomatoes. Still to this day, I can just hand her a bowl of cherry tomatoes, and she'll just eat them all. But it was because we grew it, and that changed. And she would still sit there and say, I hate tomatoes, but she was eating them. So.
Surprise, right?
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Right. So I think, I was going to ask you, what's a good thing to plant at this time of year? We're just coming out of fall, and it's hard to plant in the winter, isn't it?
It is, and it totally depends where you live. Like, I'm in the Northeast, and there's not much you can do outside right now. But I have an indoor garden, so I love to plant all types of things in that. And then I guess more on the West Coast or South, you could do probably more greens and herbs. I don't know, like tomatoes and cucumbers and those like more summery fruits and vegetables, they like a lot of heat. So if you're in a place that has a lot of heat, I would be growing your tomatoes, your cucumbers, your basil, all of that kind of peppers, all that kind of stuff. And
so
then
kind of like the dark shade kind of things. Then. Yeah.
And then like as it gets cooler, all of the lettuce and herbs, most herbs except basil, love that like cool mornings and cool evenings with the warm days kind of temperatures. They really thrive in that.
So I guess it depends on how old the child is as to how much you let them help in the garden. But, I think that even at a 3-year-old can dig in the garden. I mean, they love that kind of stuff, or even a 2-year-old, but it might end up in their mouths. But 3 is a little more safe, right?
Yes. Yeah. Like as soon as I would say under 3 is a little messy. You want to get them in there, but they're probably not going to do too many productive things, but they can help. And once they hit 3, it's, they can put their seeds in, cover it with dirt, put a little water on it, and, go out and help you water every day. And then get so excited when they see the plants sprouting up.
And they could even do some sprouts in egg cartons, right? I saw that on a video the other day. I thought, wow, that's a really cool idea to grow it inside in a carton.
Paper towel and like spray them down with the paper towel, and a couple of days they sprout up, and then you can put them on a salad. I think a lot of people are afraid or don't even think about giving kids salad. But I know that my daughter, when she was 2, she would like crawl over to me and start eating right out of my bowl. Like she loved salad, and I think it's a great thing to start kids off as soon as they can.
So why would they not give them salad?
I mean, it depends on the parent. There's definitely people who do, but a lot of parents just pigeonhole into kid food. And I think we're probably the only country that has kid food. In so many other countries, kids just grow up and eat grown-up food from, as soon as they eat table food. But for some reason in America, kids get the chicken nuggets and they get the mac and cheese, and I really don't know why it is that way, but I don't like it. And when we go out to dinners, as you were mentioning, in restaurants, there's not many restaurants that offer good choices for the kids. Like, it's always breaded chicken nuggets. It's never a grilled chicken with a vegetable. It's always breaded chicken with French fries, or pizza, or mac and cheese, like you said. I wish they offered smaller portions of a grown-up meal.
Yeah, and if you have enough kids, you could get one meal and cut it all up and spread it all out to different kids,
I
right?
did that a lot when my two kids were of that age. Like, I would just get a regular meal and split it between them.
That makes perfect sense. It's better than the garbage that they got on the kids' side.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and then back to the cheese again, right? Cheese sandwiches and
yes.
and a hamburger. It's like,
it's frustrating because I wish, I think we all know fruits and vegetables are good for us, but somewhere along the line we kind of forgot like how important it is and how much we need to eat every day. And like, that is my goal, to really make kids understand that and understand why it's important and how it fuels our bodies.
I was just learning on a video about, I want to say asparagus, but that's not what I'm talking about. Never mind. I'm not going to go there. I'll think of it later. You know how that goes, right?
Totally.
Yeah. It's just trying to get them to cooperate. And then you've got a horrible dinner situation when they don't get what they want and everybody's mad. Nobody wants to be there with somebody doing a tantrum. What would you say would be the quickest way to stop that at the dinner table?
Probably just, like I said, some of the things I've already said. Always make sure, if it's about food and not wanting to eat it, always make sure there's something on the table that they have a positive experience with. I think that solves the I don't want to eat that. As far as that, there's a million reasons kids could have fit. I would make sure that they're rested, because kids that are tired are not going to want to try food. Mm-hmm. So, and that also goes into my wellness education with parents, because it's not just about nutrition. The core four that I like to focus on are sleep, making sure they're hydrated, exercise. We all need to get them moving, and then the nutrition that we've talked about a lot already. And I think these all work together. So if your child is too tired, hasn't had their nap, they're going to melt down at the table and be less open to trying food. And one thing that gets overlooked a ton, I think, is hydration.
Yeah.
And that plays into a ton. Like, if you're dehydrated, you get hungry. The kids will want to eat more junk when they're hungry, and then they don't feel good, and so then they'll be cranky. And then they might not be sleeping as well because they're eating a lot more junk. So, and then with the hydration, I think kids drink too much sugar. My kids get really upset at me because pretty much all we have to drink in my house is water, almond milk, and flax milk. And then, like, at the way back of the pantry is like a tiny, tiny can of soda, of ginger ale, if like someone has an upset stomach. But it's not like an everyday thing. But my daughter's always like, "Oh, my friend's coming over. Can you buy some lemonade?" And honestly, I think lemonade's probably one of the more mild ones. Like, I know that a lot of my friends' kids have all kinds of, juice and Gatorade and all kinds of sugary drinks that I really find unnecessary. I don't think they're good for you. I don't see there's any reason that kids need to be drinking them all the time. So water is what's important, and that's what my kids drink all the time. And we drink a ton of water at my house. So that just comes back to the hydration. And when my daughter, who just actually today was like, "My head's hurting a little bit," I'm like, "Well, how much water have you drank today?" So before I'll go give her an ibuprofen or a Tylenol, I make her drink a bunch of water.
That's a brilliant thought. And I'm sure not many parents think like that, to make sure that they have that water. And by the way, the word was celery. I couldn't believe how many minerals and vitamins and that celery had. It just shocked me. And one of my favorite things to do with my kids was to put almond butter in the celery, because then they'd want it, right? And then they'd add in raisins on top of that, because they could put the raisins on. I'm sure they would have rather had M&Ms, but we had raisins. So it's things like that, inventive little things. And you could probably look on the internet, right, to see what might be fun things you could make with kids to get them to eat.
Yes, there are tons of recipes online. In fact, so this class that I've done, usually I do this class in as an after school club for the elementary schools in my area, but I'm working on a program to get it online. But what we do is make fun recipes out of vegetables, and one of them is cauliflower popcorn is really fun, because we like pop around the room and like make, we fake pop it, but it's actually just cold cauliflower. And it's amazing how many kids love raw cauliflower. And the parents write back to me and they're like, oh, my daughter wants to make this all the time.
That's funny.
Yeah, so we do that. Like, I found a whole bunch of recipes. Sometimes we find a vegetable in each color and make like a rainbow wrap. So we take all the different colors and then we put it in those spring roll wraps, which are really clear. Not spring roll, the summer rolls.
Yeah.
And we wrap them up, and you can
rice
see
paper, right? Rice paper.
Yep. And you can see through it, so you can see all the colors of the rainbow in the wrap. And I love, in our class too, we also have a surprise veggie of the day. So we take I put the vegetable in like a hidden bag, and I pass it around, and I tell them, you can feel it, you can smell it, you can shake it, but you can't see it. And you're going to have to guess what it is. And that's really fun. The kids, they have so much fun with it. And I love just watching their faces getting excited about vegetables. Like,
hard to believe, right?
Yes. It just doesn't happen every day, right? So.
Yeah, it doesn't happen every day. It's highly unusual.
Yeah.
So Alexis, you've given us some fabulous, fabulous ideas. And do you have a little gift for our audience, or maybe a way that parents could reach out to you? That would be awesome if you know of something.
Yes, I would love to offer a 45-minute to an hour consultation to give you guys some tips and tricks to help your kids get the nutrition that they need, or just helping to get them to eat and try more foods at home.
Awesome. And we'll put that down in the comments so that you know how to reach out to her. And if you are challenged with your child, you want to talk to Alexis, she will get you to the other side. So Alexis, thank you so much for being with me. And if you'd hang tight, I'd love to talk to you briefly after the show. Would you do that?
I will. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So everyone, I hope you got some really good tips from our wellness educator about how to help your kids get better nutrition and do it without a fight. She gave you so many great ideas on how to do it without a fight. And you could tell, that it could really work, because even you would be willing as a child to take the choices that she gave you. I love the thank you bite. That's got to be my favorite one, because, I wish I'd been able to do that as a kid. I would have been going to the sink a lot, but I would have tried it. But the good thing for me is I've tried everywhere, every country I go to, I try the food just because I'm going to try it. And it might be a no thank you. It has been, but at least I tried it. So just keep this in mind about Alex and Alexis, and she can really make a difference for you as far as the pain that you go through in every meal. If you want to stop the pain, you need to talk to her. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned a lot, and I look forward to seeing you next Friday. Bye-bye, and please stay well this week.